Great. Welcome everyone again, or if you are new, welcome to our another localized event. We are a global community that connects students and recent graduates from emerging markets, so especially the regions of Latin America, Middle East, Africa, and some parts in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, to job opportunities and career resources to help you guys find your pathways in your new careers or decide what you want to do after college, figure out any questions you might have about what steps to take or what roles will be open for you. We are here to help you. And so we also have an amazing pool of experts who come weekly to help you, again, guide you in this process of selecting the right career, the right role, and the right position for you after college, or if you're transitioning from career to career. And so, as you might already know, today we're going to be talking about careers in climate tech. So we're going to be talking from what is climate tech, what positions can you aspire to, and what skills you might need to build this career. So we will be guided through this session by our expert, who's again joining all the way from Beijing, China. It's a little late there, so we are super grateful to have you here. And our expert today is Karen Wang. So she's a climate entrepreneur with a data science background. Her goal is to build technologies to facilitate decision making in order to combat climate change, especially in developing countries, which we all come from in this session. So she serves as the CEO and founder of CleanMind, which is a data as a service platform that delivers actionable climate data infrastructure through AI technologies to facilitate mitigation and adaptation solutions. We're going to hear more about her and her journey, but she has also been named Forbes 30 Under 30 a couple of years ago, and she has collaborated with the Imperial College London Centers for Climate Finance and Investment, and right now she's a Schwarzman Scholar at Tsinghua University in China again. So I'm gonna keep it there. There's more to hear about her journey, but we're gonna hear about her from her and about her journey, about her experience in just about a minute. So I'm gonna pass it on to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And then I'll say it's a great privilege to be here and then having the honor joining Schwarzman Long event so virtually. So I'm currently in China, Beijing. Climate is I would say it's a really unique combination of data science, climate change. What we're doing is really trying to bring the solutions to people, not just in this field, but also broader audience can have a specific tool empower them to figure out the climate solutions. So I'll skip like the long intros of what climate does. Later I can do a more detailed sharing and then actually live demo. Happy to share with the audience. And I know some audience are watching this recording, so feel free to just post your questions and we can make it more interactive. A little bit about how this all comes such a long way and then what I do at a broaderly. And besides climate, so I came from a data background. I worked at Microsoft, the Azure team, data science, and in the banking sector. And then climate change, when I look back right now, I think the first time I heard about climate change was actually at Microsoft. So this is, there's an initiative called AI for Good. I think this is actually an amazing part. Like we don't have that in our early educations, but now it's different. And then climate is such a necessary topic. It's also creating more opportunity jobs, and then which we are not witnessing. So I also have a role as one of 17 SDG young leaders under the Secretary General Office, the Youth Envoy Office. This is the initiative so designed for people to working on the different sustainable development goals. So in the past year, like Climate and myself, we had the chance to be part of different part of the world into the conversations, discussions like at the UN or associated platforms. So today, I think since our audience are mostly the young, yeah, I think people interested in this area or potentially already in this area. So I will try to walk you through like our story and then answer the questions. So one more last thing I want to mention is I'm also on the board of a nonprofit. It's called the United Nations Museum, UN Life. This is initiative like to advocate the SDG as well. And then we're global, so a little bit adaptation asked for the nonprofit. All right. So Climate, we got a name actually when I was at Cambridge. I was walking the street and then thinking like what to do with the name of the company. So I wanted to do AI for climate. And it pumps up to me like climate change slash like intelligence of mind, and then we just combine two words. So that's where Climate like we got the name. So at the core, in one sentence, we do a chat GPT format of product, but specifically for climate change. And then the difference is we give the citations. So the truth or the credibility, we think is one of the key things in this area. So how much you can trust the answer. And the reason is if you look at the landscape, like how what is the actual problem of climate change? And then you can basically break into like industry. So how much emission per industry and what kind of solution to do. Or another way to look into it. So in the area, we usually call the solution as two categories. It's called the mitigation adaptation. And then to deal with the existing emissions or how we reduce potential emission in the future, like we're going to do. And then the dilemma here is really, especially in developing countries, we need to take care of the economic growth while you have like security issues coming up. And then also how you can making sure the sustainability lifestyle. And that's like I think a really challenging part. In economy language, we call it negative externality. And like today, like it might be like one of the first time like you look such a products or like projects. So the core really is we think the we want to we believe like the solution has to be local, but it's a global issue. So the key thing here is really how we can empower everyone to spend, because we're really competing with time. So how you spend have the best way to spend your time basically. So without further ado, I think it will be necessary to share the slides here. Okay, just to check with Michelle, can you see my screen with the climate background?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, cool. I want to start from actually start with from a demo, and then we can come back to into the little bit background story. So most I assume this is or let me just check the chat box. Okay, so I'll start a really simple question. You might be curious. What types of jobs in the climate area? So we can also choose what kind of source language you want from. So here, let's just use English. And then we'll say like what it tells us. So a really simple answer, like now I just randomly guess, I think it can come with like climate or greenhouse gas emission auditing, accounting, sorry. So this is a step like we designed for people to have better understanding of their question. So are you interested in the specific sector? So I'll actually skip that. Okay, so my question is not specific enough, and then you ask me one more. Are you looking for entry-level position or more advanced? Or are you looking to advance? How advanced it is? Like, and give it a little bit of time. So basically what happened in the background, is you go to search from our database, the internet, based on my instruction. and then it will give you the answer, but there's something different here is they actually generate you the question or the answer with a credible source of information. So that's like a key part that we call it how you reduce the hallucination issue. And later we can check this out, and I can actually share the link to you, so you can open from your end, translate that into the language like now we provide. We have a couple of different languages. So recently added Arabic, but we're definitely happy to add more. So of course there are some follow-up questions like here is something you might be also interested. Okay, so I'll give a soft stop here. Actually, let me just um I will send the link to the chat box so you can register yourself. I'm happy to give you the testing account. Okay, so back to where we are and why we do this. So I saw a question coming up like what are some key skills or qualifications that employer typically look for entry-level candidates? We can ask it later in the chat, but I want to go back a little bit because this entire climate change field is, I would say, like from the entrepreneurship perspective, a lot of the solutions we do have technology science in this area like coming up. The key part is there's a term created by Bill Gates. It's called a green premium. So basically the cost, like the cost to replace existing solutions. The key thing here is about like how can do the math, right? So climate is really like we want to people to use this tool to help them. Well, it's like a personal assistant or even like a teacher. Like either it's entry level or senior level. And this is a tool. Hopefully, we can use this in different areas in climate change. I will give a couple of examples. So one example will be, let me just skip this a little bit. One example will be ESG reporting. This is another really hot topic. Like ESG stands for environment, sustainability, and then governance. Why we have this? For listed company, there's a growing trend. Like company has to disclose how they perform on the three metrics. And then in different regions, jurisdictions, and then there are different requirements. Basically, the format is that you need to publish a report with the details, for example, like the gender balance in your institution or how you deal with like environment, what's the emissions like, and the list goes on and on. And what we're coming from here is imagine that you have 100, 1,000, or even more reports that you need to read and then to eventually write your own. So that's one. Another is if you like working insurance as a manager industry, then you might need to analyze the report. And then climate here, we have a really simple use case. Is instead of like reading those hundreds pages or even thousands pages report, you can just like ask a question on the platform and give you the answer, locate to a specific page where it's coming from. And then you might ask like, then like, how do you differentiate a good candidate whereas like a not that good candidate? So that's a key thing here. Like we hope people in this area can really spend on time on the analyze part rather than like finding materials. So that's just one simple example, like besides question answering, how you can actually use this. And then there are actually more, but I want to save some time to just give you a landscape about the job market and how you enter this area, and even like what kind of opportunities we have at the current mind. So our headquarters is in Hong Kong, and so we have team located in Singapore. I'm in Beijing, Hong Kong, and then we also have colleague in London, Cambridge, UK. And here's basically last year where we are, and then we spend quite a lot of time to travel to Middle East, Europe, countries in Asia. It really came to me that how climate change is actually changing the landscape of economic development. We have a recession, I think, a trend after COVID. It's really hard or the job market is really hard. And then But I think climate change is a really special case because there are countries, especially in global south, like Asia has more than half of the global population, and but it's also where it faced most damage. So when a disaster comes, like it's basically like 0 or 1, and then you have no choice, but to like it's a living issue. It's not even like a more sustainable issue. So climate is one of the rare areas you really need to prepare early. So that's why I think it's creating a lot of opportunities in different areas. So which area you can work in climate change? So it's pretty simple. Like you can either go to research area or the finance area. Finance is the key because if you do the math, you really need that amount of capital to tackle into the mitigation adaptation issue. And the institutions are preparing for that, like from both public and private sector. And of course, then you go to government. So it's like a really, think a really sizable and then a new, it's creating more job category as well. So um, and then for that, we besides the platform, we also have a podcast. If you search Kind Mind on Spotify or Apple Music, you'll be able to find our previous podcast. We had really intelligent, interesting discussions with people working in both areas, like MIT or the president from IEEE or Oxford. And then you'll be hearing like it's actually quite cool. Like people use AI to understand and then to adjust, for example, the supply demand of the electricity, the grid, and then also like how you can predict the future, well, not the future, like the wildfire. So that's another really interesting case study. We had a conversation with a researcher from Imperial College London. And then another thing I would give a highlight is spatial finance in this entire area. So how alternative data can help with understand like well how you can monitor for example deforestation, reforestation. So we know like Amazon is disappearing because of like the trees being cut enough, and then the issue like so those are like we call it digital MRV. I'm not going into details, but I just want to mention like if you want to learn more, then we'll have podcasts you can listen to. And yeah, so one more thing, final thing to address on before I answer the questions in the chat. You might wonder what kind of skill set you need in order to build such a platform or join an institution like what we do at Climate. So now we have a user from 49 countries, and then it's actually quite mind blowing, like how people are using our platform and for what kind of questions. So really in our backend, the tour you saw, like there's a long working flow. So we need to understand what are the important informations out there. And those are like a data with different formats. We have numerical, text, different mortality, we call it. But the key thing is really the scenario. So what kind of questions like people generally, we call it expert, will ask, and then on the early stage, we do a lot of data work, making sure our answers are aligned. That will the kind of question answer pairing will be distilled into our platform, and then to make sure like the output is actually trustworthy. So there's another entire field like we train our algorithm to give the well to find the most suitable source of information. There are like hundreds millions countless information. So why we have why we select top 10, not the other top 10. So that's like a ranking issue. And of course, like data is actually really patient work. So this is basically the value chain, well, the chain, like how climate model being built. So up until now, we are yeah, and also on the back end, we also do a lot of industry research, and also the tool can be used for research purposes as well. So yeah, that's another area. If you're interested, feel free to go to home.climate.co, and I think that's where you can find most information from, and also our linking. And then we are actively, constantly looking for talents. So don't shy, just show me an email at Karen@climate.co. We're happy to schedule a call with you. I will actually want to save more time to answer the questions, and I see there are quite a lot coming up already. So I'll try to answer the question in the chat, and I'll give it back to Michelle, and then we have some questions prepared early as well. So okay, the question one, I'm going to repeat that. Actually, let's do a really interesting experiment. So while I'm answering, I will just put a question into our chat. Okay, so let me select a couple.
Do you want me to read them for you, or do you want to read them yourself?
I can read it, yeah. Okay, so here's a question I don't need the platform for. Has Climate come to Singapore before? We will. So actually, my co-founder is based in Singapore. So it's a lovely place. I'd like to visit and see for opportunities. All right, so logistic question. Here's one. With the increasing focus on diversity and inclusion in the workforce, what specific initiative strategy does your organization employ to ensure the equitable access to entry-level opportunity in climate tech? Well, I think the climate might not be the best or the tour. I don't know what you will give me the answer for. Actually, that's actually not a good example. I would put something else. But I think it's a great question. So I will come from more United Nations side. So the team, the department I'm associated with, youth and board office, most of our work are designed for building the channel or the fair entry level opportunity for young generation. And then we not just climate tech, but the broadly 17 SDG goals, sustainable development goals. I think like there was a really interesting experience for me personally. There was a conference I went at Europe, and then the environment prime minister of Sweden, she got elected when she was like 28 something. And then for me, like a Chinese Asian, that's mind blowing. I think like not just because of the age. So we were on the same conference. It's called the Oslo Energy Forum. But I think like there are a couple facts. So one is the population trend. If you really search that, in Asia, most of the countries, well, East Asia, are actually experiencing this decreasing amount of population. So the working force, the main working force, will be different structure, like in the coming years. And then in Middle East, like Arab areas, like Saudi, Dubai countries, I actually have a much younger generate or age distribution. So I want to mention population and age because this will determine heavily like the productivity of a society. And that's also why you need to get the opportunities ready for the people who is going to enter the job market. So climate tech, I think, is one of the best area that's friendly to people with really few working experience. And a part of the fact is because we have such a challenge of population change. And the second is the policy. Usually, like the policy are behind what the markets are performing. So in climate changes, that's the same. And then you will notice this fact, like most of the climate policy related job, like are hiring really young age, but like people working in the part of the even like within United Nations. So that's I think the second thing I want to address on. But no matter what kind of like how the entry level can be, I think the key thing is really you're gonna prepare yourself ready for your future choice. So that's I don't know if I answered your question properly, but that's something come to me right now. Okay, so there's another one. Are you looking for any partnership with university student groups? What do those look like? Yes, we do. And then we have a scholar program. It's called Climate Scholar. So we just launched the first batch. So what they're looking for is really we give our students, our scholars, access of our platform, and then some topic. So the first batch was something we're trying out is doing research on specific topic, but with some guidance from our team. And then they publish the article or the paper if it's a PhD candidate. And the second is well, that's also like some candidates are really interested in our work. So we're open part of like for example, analyze the data work to the scholars. And also like we're also trying something is like using ClientMind platform and just going to LinkedIn or different platform to answer the question like the people posted on social media. And then you'll be realized like how good those answers are. And then sometimes you got a reply from like people who have years experience. And then I think we got really good response, like a scholar doing that. And I say they got reply from someone they really admire about their work. And then, but I think it's more like a process. I want to see what kind of use case the platform can do. It's like early age when ChatGPT came out. And then you have this scope, but it really got viral because people use it for different purpose, and I find really interesting part of that. All right. So yeah. So if you're interested, just find me on LinkedIn or I actually type my email here. But for the rest, yeah, why not? I'll give it back to Michelle, and then maybe we can go for the questions we prepared. But I'm really curious on this question, so I'll just put it and then let you know the answer while we're doing question answer.
Yeah. Amazing. There's actually another question that I think you were starting to partially answer during the presentation, coming from it's on the top if you scroll up, it's coming from Imran. So they were asking about key skills or qualification that employers typically look for entry-level candidates.
Yeah, sure. I think like I'll answer the skills first. So if it's climate, or I can speak for climate finance industry because I work in this field before. And I think like skills, most of the skills are actually developed in your actual work, not school. So it's a relevant question. So let me just do my screen sharing. We're not gonna read it, but I find it's really intriguing. If you go to the internet, you will find a lot of articles actually writing this. So supporting DEI, nonprofit, coding, academics, those are like true answer. And if you could just go to, for example, building a strong network, a company with shared value, or providing support funding for diversity entrepreneur. This is a question for the organization perspective. But I want to show you like it will take you to the source of that. But back to the skill question. I don't think like a skills are the key part of deciding you're admitted or not. Because those can be trained. And then companies are there for that. You may not be able to transfer actually all the skill sets across company because different companies are different. But I think a qualification comes a couple, especially for big firms. If you're doing like applying for McKinsey, BCG, then imagine like the human resource receiving 10K resumes every day. There's no way they can just read them through. So I think a couple is like how you write your resume, and maybe school is one factor. But I actually saw a report writing like there's a decreasing like weights on how people access your education background, especially like beyond the undergrad. People actually value undergrad more. But I think university like education background is an entry, but it doesn't decide everything. And then some other factor, I think it's kind of tricky to change. For example, like the region, like where the company is located, so sometimes comes with like visa stuff. So those are especially for candidates looking for country not in your city, your own city, or your own country. Yeah, so more specific in our area, I think one is you need to learn the language. It's not like a speaking language, English or Chinese, Arabic. It's more the term. You know what the people are talking about. That can be read. That can be found everywhere. And the second I would say is the basic understandings about the industry. So I will share the experience like for all the interview I did. I'll be really being grateful or appreciated if the candidates know what we're doing already, or they know like what kind of industry we are. So I can save my time just to explain. And I will imagine like it's a really proactive candidate. So a lot of it's like a people level. I think the communication. But if you really want to have outstanding resume, if I can just give one comments, is to build your own work, your own track record. That can be your written work, your paper. If you build like startup experience, something like it tells people who you are, what makes you different from everyone else. And then you got like years like, to work on the qualification part. But I think the first day is really about who you are rather than what kind of certificate you have. And then, yeah, so I guess I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you mentioned something about, for example, being proactive. So I'm just curious if there are any other like if you have in mind any other like non-hard skills that you will see like valuable to work in this sector, especially which is like not new but like not known for somehow new area or sector and not know for everyone or in every region yet climate tech. So is there any soft skills that you think are valuable? Because you were mentioning like hard skills, you can learn them and like develop them during college, for example. But is there any other like soft skills that you will find valuable apart from being proactive for someone entry level?
Um, well, I think like early stage of a career, you sort of get that, you sort of get that, well, how to say, permission to make a mistake. Um, and then it's like people will understand why you make this mistake. But I think from that, really soft skill, not related to language, is how you can learn. And then people can sense that when they collaborate, when they work with you. And how you prove like you learn fast is, I think it's a really soft skill thing, because it's really not about grades. It can be like you're proactively talking with a manager to solve a problem, to how you approach the challenge, or like for example, if you're promising high delivering low or the other way. Um, and I think I will like from my view, I will appreciate a lot if the people colleague, well I will usually I put this to my team is, if you're willing to work with someone, work for someone, then we'll hire him or her. So that's like a really soft benchmark like we use, and then it sounds like really high benchmark. But I think in the end, like for soft skills, really how you demonstrate who you are and how fast you can learn.
That's a really interesting like way of viewing it to hire someone, but I really like it how you mention it. Um, okay, there is another question that came from Imran as well. So they were asking, it's in the chat. So how does a company address the potential ethical implications of developing climate tech solution, particularly in terms of unintended consequences of like impacting existing environmental inequalities, for example. So I guess especially in terms of like any not only climate tech but especially like in terms of AI, like there's this like conversation going on of have to be careful about like the solutions that you're building. So can you maybe, for example, I don't know, it can be general or maybe from your point of view or your own experience while building CleanMine, and your experience working in emerging countries, how did you guys were you able to take care of this, or are you thinking of like doing anything in special to be careful with this potential implications?
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the thing I mentioned about ESG. But the really specific requirement on ESG, mostly the conversations are around listed company. So to be frank, like as a startup, like early stage company, there's just so much you can do. Just so then like fundamentally, there are two parts. There's the internal, external. So internal part is how you build your team, and how you treat your colleagues. So the working environment. External part mainly like being associated with, for example, environment you mentioned. So social can come with a diverse metrics to evaluate. I don't fundamentally being a number person when we evaluate the diversity. So which means like you don't do gender diversity for hiring. Well, you don't hire someone for gender diversity. So the fair environment, you have like a fair competition environment, I think is much more important than you have the number on your report, like how many female male you have in your team. But there are definitely like areas that you need to work on to support. For example, people has like more I think a social status disadvantage regarding race, language, or disability. So you don't take disability as a factor when you hire people. So I think that's most obvious common knowledge for us now, like to how to make decisions. I want to mention this because I think there's definitely a trend, like people want to well disclose the beautiful factor, the numbers on their report showing like, okay, we have diversity, but actually it's not. So that's I think it's called kind of, oh, I'm not sure it's a greenwashing or not, but that's definitely things happening right now out there. External part. External part, I think well, for AI, there's some questions so we can pick up here. One is the potential ethics issues of using AI. So what kind of data we use for training, what we don't, and how we treat the data when data go across the board, how we deal with that, and also like the environmental impact of using AI, large language model. But here I read a paper actually, people trying to measure like another paper report from Microsoft. So measure the impact, emission impact of large language model. It's actually not that much like people imagine it could be. But it might be more because the LLM is really changing the landscape, like how companies are utilizing AI. So definitely factor like how you run your data center. But well, I think like this answer will really come from the board, from the decision maker and different company. But in the end, well, I think like leading by examples. That doesn't matter like what kind of size the company is. And then that's also one factor I think makes a company be more attractive for to the young people. You don't want to work for a company like doing mining and no, doing damage on the biodiversity stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And indeed, that's like a really huge factor for the younger generations right now when selecting where to work. We have found that reputation of the brand, like knowing that the brand is well known, it's important, for example, for our users, but also for the new generations is also like how the company acts and the values. So that's really, really true. Um, Okay, so if you haven't shared your questions yet, you can send your questions again on the chat or in the Q&A. In the meantime, I'm gonna go back to the questions that we have for you, Karen. So one of them is, can you maybe share, and you were already sharing some examples when you mentioned ESG in the slides. But like, I'm curious if you have any like examples of entry-level opportunities in the area, in the sector in general, whether the roles can be tech or non-tech or maybe data-related positions in the climate tech sector. So what are those like type of like positions that someone who is just graduating can aspire to? So how can they even like Google like, like what are the names of the positions and what these positions entail in a super general like aspect?
Mm-hmm. Um, so first thing I will do is generally just to make separation or category of area you're looking for, because academia job markets are different totally different from non-academia. And then just one example, and then for example, like government will be different. So there's certain pathway built up to go to government, for example, like in different countries. If you're talking about academia, well, schools post all the roles, and then it's really detailed. And I think academia is really typical roles like research assistant as entry level, or then you do a PhD and then you do like a researcher, like builds toward the way. There in the industry, so I have a really interesting I think trick when I was thinking about this question myself, as platform is actually a good thing. So like linking or companies you really like. And then something I will do is to, for example, follow the people in this area, which I really admire the work, and then to subscribe what they post. So that's when we actually can identify a potential opportunity like you have a higher chance to be interested in. So and then you can design actually your own feed of opportunity. But that takes some time. But I think it's also a way to learn how you screen your build your own information feed. And then second is just go to like Glassdoor, different like job DB platform to see. So to answer the category of job, in the ESG area, most of the jobs entry roles are analyst. I don't think like it's the industry like detailed enough, like you have separation category of role. And I imagine because I actually myself I haven't done those in big firm, so I may not be qualified to answer that. But the people I know like working in this field, they either came from academia related to climate change, slash they have working experience, or like they actually build their own career. So being the first person in this company doing ESG, those are like the two examples I can tell right now in this field. And soon I'm sure like ESG will be a more popular words everywhere. So getting ready if you're interested. But I think in the end, it's the most important thing is not about fit yourself into the qualifications, but to build yourself into the version you imagine like you want to be, and then to find a job like fit you, and then I think that's the way I would rather think about it.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I'm curious, in your own experience about your journey. So this is not the first company you built or you helped to build. So we know you're a serial entrepreneur, but you were also working before, more like in the research bar, in the College of London. So I'm curious what motivated you to do like this transition from like let's for example, the research part that you were doing to now being an entrepreneur and founding a data or like a data related company to fight climate change. So how did you decide and what was this process of deciding to do this shift?
Yeah. Um, Thanks for asking that. I love Imperial. I think Imperial is one of my well, I got my official training on climate change starting from Imperial. And I stayed as a researcher with a center, it's called Climate Finance, Center for Climate Change and Finance. So um the tipping point that really is like one factor is that I probably want to come back to Asia, because I think like being in Europe in UK, and then we read a lot about the Asian topics, but I have to physically be here and actually to know what I'm doing. That's one. And second is um, most of research are uh, designed for long term. Climate change field is slightly different, especially with doing climate finance. So we're actually being more industry oriented to be problem solving mindset. Um, but I still feel like it's I wanted to do something about data. And it's a bit hard to build something by yourself working in any university. It's a team effort. So Climate, the website, everything you saw, including my background, are from our team. And most of them are not done by myself. And I think I really appreciate like how the experience, like how you find like-minded people, and then you being together to build something. And that experience itself, I think is really rewarding. And then after a year and a half, like we actually started this idea a year and a half ago. You slowly see this compounding feedback, just make some progress every day, and that feels really good. Um, but research is also important, especially if you're in the area really tackling some challenging question, but hard to find a job for. And and then yeah, so I think it's pretty natural to me to have that transition.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, and I have another question. So do you know, apart from, of course, like your own your own website that you already shared the link where anyone can ask questions related to the field or the topic, is there any other strategies or resources that you recommend the attendees and our users to stay updated on the latest trends in the climate sector?
Mhm. Yeah, so go to subscribe the newsletter, not by mainstream media, but by industry practitioners. We're gonna launch our newsletter as well. And that's like you stand on the top of the giant's shoulder. And then like slowly if you read a lot, you know how to ask a good question and then put them into climate writing, you get really credible answers to build your own knowledge base. There's no secret. I think it's more like how you build your own knowledge feed. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Um, so someone is asking, I think the answer is no for now, but someone was asking before if you guys have offices in Nigeria, or do you plan to have work in Nigeria in some form?
Thank you. I never thought about it. So we don't know, maybe. But one thing I want to mention is, so we're like a hybrid team. My colleagues are in UK, Singapore, and then you don't need the office to build a company. And I think at this stage, Climate is welcome everyone like sharing the well, if you have like good idea how it can be better, then we'd love to talk to you.
Amazing. There's that opportunity, Oluchi. Okay, so let's continue. If you haven't sent your questions yet, again, you can send the questions in the chat or in the Q&A. We still have a couple of minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask you another question. So I'm curious, between, it can be from your experience with Claymine or in any other job experience that you have had before, whether it was a company you founded or not, what has been maybe one of the most rewarding projects that you have worked on, or an exciting project that you have worked on?
Um, uh, well, that's hard to choose. I am recently working on the textbook. I want to say that, but it's actually not that exciting. I think it's my work at the UN's Youth Assembly office. Um, I got to know such a different world last year, traveling, meeting people from different part of this world. Um, and I think that extended my kind of Schwarzman college experience. Um, and I mean, at Schwarzman, like we have people from everywhere. Chinese just takes 20% of the sample here. And I think like we're living in such a connected but also disconnected world. That gives me a totally different views on how you make choices, like career, and then like how you build a company. And then I think the platform localized is also awesome, like to be able to reach out to people sitting now like everywhere. Um, there's no way you can know each other like until you have such a platform. Um, and yeah, I think that's actually quite unique experience for me, like to experience like how you work in the public sector, but not necessarily like a full-time job, but how I got a chance to navigate United Nations as an entity, and then together with SDG, but also like my obligations on like conducting the climate work. Openly, like one can do really little. The purpose of work, I think, is in the end what motivates you most. And that experience for me is like giving me more purpose motivations.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have one last question that we didn't have a chance to ask at the beginning. But I'm curious, and also for everyone listening to maybe deep dive more on your own personal experience. Well, I'm curious, what is your day-to-day work day look like as a founder of a climate tech company? So what is it? We know right now you're also like combining with your master's program at Schwarzman Scholars, but like what is the day-to-day look like for a young entrepreneur in a company? So what type of activities do you do, just so we can picture what does that look like for someone like you?
Yes, most of my life are on the screen. So I think like yeah, it's quite a challenge. And it's basically like your day start from like probably like tomorrow I have a meeting, breakfast meeting at 7. And then today I might need to stay up for another like project. Um and yeah, you kind of like need to sacrifice some social life. So for the take care of yourself, especially health. And my day, I think it's happy. I kind of like having a lot of friends surrounding, and then they have a really high tolerance on me, and so yeah, and also my family. Um, but yeah, I think it's not that funny. But I kind of being really grateful and appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you for being so honest and transparent. We know you have another meeting coming up. So I just want to thank you for your time and let you go so you can have like 2-minute break before your next meeting. So thank you so much for sharing about Clean, about your experience, answering all the questions. And before we go, I'm also sharing an event recording that we have on the platform for everyone who is still in college or who want to transition to climate related positions. We did had a special event with with someone from our team in Localize, who basically helps you guys to adjust your CV and your job applications, especially when you're still in college, you don't have work experience, how to translate your volunteer experience, your student groups, your student leadership activities, and how to communicate that in your job applications and CVs. As Karen was saying, like sometimes it's not about the special like hard skills, but how you communicate whatever you bring to the table. So we did have that event especially for jobs in climate and the green jobs market, so you can go and watch that recording to adjust your CV. And again, I just want to thank you, Karen, so much for your time. I don't know if you have any last words before we go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. And then also hope you find this useful. And then we'll come to reach out. It will be really easy to find. And then best luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who stays here and everyone watching the recording. And I hope to see you again in another localized event. Thank you so much. Bye.